there were some hirings that went on in the last 48 hours. Some of them very surprising. First things first, the Cubs blew up the news cycle today by announcing that they hired Craig Counsell, of all people, as their manager. We were convinced they were going to the Mets, along with probably most people in the world.
I think so. Yeah.
Right?
Dude, this blew my mind.
I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked by this. I couldn't believe it. But I was like, well, David Ross, right? And no, I understand, Brig, that the sentiment surrounding David Ross really soured this year.
It did, especially in the latter half. I feel like they had a chance and they muffed it.
Yeah. Well, and apparently there's a belief in Chicago that some of the decisions he made the last couple weeks of the season are like the reason they didn't make the playoffs.
Right.
Although you might be able to pinpoint it on a missed fly ball by Seiya Suzuki.
You just might.
Because if he caught that ball, the D-backs probably weren't going.
Yeah, that's a pretty good chance there.
Yeah. So I don't know. Do you think it's going to be a good fit? Do you think it'll work out?
Yeah, I do, actually. I do think it'll be a good fit, and I think it's going to work out. I'm really surprised he didn't end up in New York, but I think this is the size of market he likes. I think it's got a really strong fan base. He's used to that. It's not too far away. He likes that. There's a lot to be desired here. It's like we got a little tease when he was interviewed with Cleveland, but I don't think there was any news about talks with Chicago. None.
No. Oh, and this is the crazy thing too, is that I guess the Cubs asked permission to talk to him, but they didn't give it to him. And so I think it's crazy that this happened so fast that I think there's going to be a tampering investigation here.
Yeah, that I could see that. That's a good point.
Got to be an investigation for tampering because there's no way it was just hey, you want to come coach? Yeah. All right. See you tomorrow. Right.
Okay. Thanks for calling.
Yeah. We got that other guy. We'll take care of it. Click. Or I guess I should say tap.
Yeah. Right. But well, okay. So let's talk about the elephant in the room, right? The Brewers and the Cubs don't get along.
Right.
They just don't. And
I feel like there's no way that the Brewers would have given permission for the Cubs to talk to him because of that.
That right. And it goes top to bottom. I feel like the organizations don't like each other. The fans don't like each other. Sometimes there's player issues and stuff between each other on game days and stuff. So for this to have come literally out of nowhere, both speaks to the intensity of the rivalry, but also that it justifies a whole bunch of the shock we're all feeling right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. It's very strange that, like we said, it came out of nowhere. But I think you're right, though. I think it's going to work.
Yeah, it's going to work.
I saw an article that said that they Counsell and the Cubs are out to prove that the manager still matters.
Sweet. Do it. I say do it. Double down, triple down, do whatever you got to do because that's what I want to see. Mm-hmm. I think that's the reason Mad Dog Mattis got Mattis. He's a general. Mad Dog Mattis is a Marine Corps 4-star. Anyway, Mad Dog Madden. That's where I got the nickname. So now you got me. That's why I think Joe Madden got ousted because the front office wanted to make all his decisions and he didn't want to let that happen. And I think Craig Counsell probably plays a political game a little quieter than Joe did. And that's going to be a big deal. But he would not have gone anywhere, I don't think, without a certain latitude, without enough rope, whatever you want to call it. If he's not going to be calling his shots and running the show, I don't think he would have signed with a club that wasn't going to let him do that.
Right.
Here's the other thing I want to say is that Craig Counsell is the winningest manager in Milwaukee history. So for him to then move across to Northside Chicago to a rival and could be, depending on the tenure he has in Chicago in the career, another terrific opportunity for him to be another winningest manager in franchise history. Could
right.
be.
So, because that's the thing is the Cubs, for lack of a better word, and I apologize for the rhyme, are not scrubs.
They're not.
They're not. Like, they've got some talent on that team. If you get the right manager in there who knows how to manage situational baseball,
yeah,
and really, really do a great job managing your pitching staff, that could be a good team. Especially in a weak division.
I'm going to look at who the winningest manager in Chicago Cubs is right now.
I'm going to guess Dusty
Chicago
Baker
Cubs
or Joe Madden.
Winningest manager. You ready for this?
Yeah.
This manager boasted a 1,282 wins to 932 losses. Okay, a 579 win-loss percentage, 3 World Series championships, if I'm not mistaken, and it's Cap Anson.
Cap Anson. Should have known.
Cap, yeah, how did you not know that? He's just born in 1852.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Should have known.
Should have known.
All right, let's move on. So there was another manager actually hired today. The Cleveland baseball team did hire their manager, but as we know, it was not Craig Counsell. Instead, it was Stephen Vogt.
Yeah.
So he's been retired from baseball for one entire year. He spent that entire year with the Mariners as the bullpen and quality control coach. From what I understand, they really liked him a lot. Like, they loved the dude. So I think he could go into this clubhouse and receive a warm reception. And also the fact that he's only been removed from the game for a year and a half by the time he gets there, right? By the time he gets into spring training. And I think he's going to know a lot of those guys personally. Yeah. And I think he's going to receive a warm reception until he gives them a reason not to.
Right. And that's what we see with David Ross. We had the exact same conversation when they hired him in Chicago, and here they are doing it in Cleveland. Now, I know you got to get new managers from somewhere, right? Yeah. And I know that former catchers are always a really good starting option. Like,
I haven't looked into it, but I'm curious going through the league because I know there are some guys who are managers who I don't know were catchers, but off the top of my head, Scott Service, Vogt now. I know that Mike Scioscia was a catcher.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So those are just off the top of my head.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that seems to work. So my question is, and we won't know this, but do you think this is a long-term solution for them, or is this plug in the gap? Is he the little Dutch boy with his finger in the dam? That's how it feels. That's how it feels to me.
He might be. And the thing that's interesting is that Cleveland's kind of taking a waiver on him, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
They're like, we'll give you a shot. We'll see how it goes. Because he has no reason for anybody to think that he can do this other than the fact that he played a high level of baseball for 10 years, played for 6 teams. People like him. Yep. So he knows how to get a clubhouse to rally around him.
Yep.
But there's, like I said, there's no reason for us to believe that he's going to take this team over the top and make a difference and do something that Terry Francona couldn't do.
That's what I want. The comparison is the thing. Yeah. It's the comparison with with Tito. I don't know, man. We'll see. But that's exactly what I was going to say.
They could end up falling off of being a really bad team for the next 3 years because we've talked about it before. They have a hard time producing runs outside of home runs.
Yeah.
Right? Like, aside from like a couple guys. They have some pretty good pitching. They have some all right defense. But they definitely took a step back this year from where they were in 2022.
For sure.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens to this team in 2024. So anyway, there's another manager hired since the Mets didn't get their guy. Gosh, these are like all dominoes falling because of Craig Counsell.
It's true. It's true. Yeah.
So the Mets didn't get Counsell, so instead they hired Carlos Mendoza. He was the bench coach for the last 4 seasons on the other side of New York.
Yeah.
The Bronx for Aaron Boone. Brig, what do you know about Carlos Mendoza?
Yes. Okay. Now, the real question, or I don't know anything about him other than he's done he's done as much of a job as anybody else over there, which is they didn't win a world championship, which is substandard, and
Failure.
everybody else, you blame whoever you want, but that guy got out, and that's great, and he moved up, and that's even better. So huzzah for him. I think that's great. But here's the story I wanted to tell you. I've been waiting to tell you the story.
Okay.
When the news came through, I got a little ding-a-ling notification on my phone here, right? It was like, It said Mets hired Mendoza as manager.
I got that one too.
And the first thing I thought was, oh my gosh, Jessica Mendoza finally got a job managing.
That was what I thought right off the bat too.
And I stopped everything to look into this. And when I found out it was not Jessica Mendoza, I was so angry. So I'm having a hard time, being impartial about this Carlos Mendoza thing. I'm like, I don't care. I don't know. This is not what I was promised,
No.
Yeah. I'm still
That's
angry.
Funny. That's funny ago. Because I had the same thought too that I saw Mendoza. I was like, no way, because I feel like I don't want to say she belongs more in the front office, but that's the angle that I feel like she had been taking when she was trying to get into baseball, is more the front office than on the field. Sure. So yeah, I was shocked. I was like, whoa, hold up, hold the phone.
Yeah. I don't know. I'd have loved it though. So I
really excited there for a minute, weren't you?
Beats the heck out of me, bro.
All right, speaking of front office jobs. Oh, sorry, go ahead. Yeah. So front office jobs, we're talking about the front office here. The Marlins hired a new president of baseball operations, hired Peter Bendix. He has been the general manager with the Rays. Just fascinating that he basically made a lateral move. All it is an improvement in title.
Yeah.
To the Marlins. Just moved his stuff down the coast.
Yeah.
Down to Miami. I think that what this move is the Marlins saying, we like what the Rays are doing. We want to try to play baseball like them.
Yeah.
We want to try to develop players. We want to form our pipeline. As soon as somebody gets expensive, ship them off and just slot in the next stud. Because that's what the Rays do. That is Rays baseball.
Right.
Like, I'm curious what they're eventually going to do with Randy Arozarena. I know it's a little ways off, but like that, the anticipation for that is like got me legitimately antsy, Brig. Dude, of all the things in the world, that's the one.
You're not the only one, and it's interesting because Kim Ng was not going to stick around to let this happen and answer to somebody else, right? So it begs the question from a philosophical standpoint, right? Was her philosophy so counter to the Rays sort of mentality that did that inform her departure as much or more or partially due, and not just because she didn't want another boss, which was totally reasonable on its own. But I don't know. I just wonder if maybe there's a philosophical difference here.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. Because honestly, I don't have a problem with playing like the Rays. If you have a good eye for talent and you know how to develop talent, go for it. Right?
Right. Sure.
Absolutely do it. There are going to be some holes because I do feel like you have to bring in an impact bat, and an impact pitcher to win a title. We saw that with the Rangers.
Yeah, for sure.
They brought in a couple of each. But you can certainly get to the World Series without either of those.
Yeah.
As long as you have some young guys who can all play together, you can get to the World Series, but it's going to take the impact to win it. And so I have no problem if the Marlins are like, let's do what they're doing. The A's are trying to, but they're failing because they don't know how to draft and develop talent.
Yeah, right.
Right? Like,
well, and they got other problems too, but yeah.
And they do have other problems, but no, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
I agree. And we won't know. The problem with this is we won't know for 3 to 5 years. Like, honestly.
I think we'll see if it's headed in the right direction in 2. I think 2.
It could be 2, but I think 3 will
At that point, we'll see if it's headed in the right direction. We'll start to see the fruits of it in 3.
Yeah.
5, if it's working, they'll be in the playoffs.
We'll know for sure by 5. For sure, one way or the other.
This is the other thing about this, though, Brig. What this means is that Josh Bell, we'll get to that in just a minute, he opted into his contract, and they still have Jazz Chisholm.
Yep.
If I'm looking for either of those guys, maybe next week I'm picking up the phone.
Yeah.
Looking for a trade.
Oh yeah.
Because there's a real possibility those guys could be shipped out if that's the approach that they're going to take.
Yeah, you're right.